All right, thanks for joining us on the Obsolete Gamer Show. I am J.A. LaRock, and today we're going to be talking to Pedro Guerra. Is that correct? Is it pronouncing right? Because I messed that up.
It's definitely really close, Guerra. You don't even pronounce the...
Okay.
We're close. You're better than a lot of other people. So
I've been known to butcher a name, and with a last name like LaRock, I have a lot of people say LaRock, Lara this. Like, yeah, so I'm really careful to try, but I constantly fail, and my friends make fun of me for it. So I was glad I was at least close in the ballpark.
They were definitely real close. That was good.
Cool. So Pedro is a programmer and designer for Good War Games, and he was also on the GaCuCon cruise that was just went a couple of weeks back. And I really wanted to, first, thanks for coming on. I really wanted to just ask you about, like, how was the event? Like, starting with the Wednesday when you got to meet people. It was at Dave & Buster, right?
Yes, it was at Dave & Buster's.
Okay, so, like, what was that like? Because, I mean, the whole idea, talking with different people who were going on the cruise, it really sounded awesome, that idea of being on a cruise and it being gaming land related. But how was that first day, the meet and greet at Dave & Buster's?
The meet and greet was pretty good. Also, I apologize, my dog is in the background going crazy. And there's nothing I can do about him. But as far as the land event went, it went really good. Me and Alex, our main programmer, got there late because we're working like our day job, and then after the day job, we were trying to put some stuff together real quick for the game that we were making for the convention. And then when we got there, everybody was already kind of just set up, and it was really good. We had a couple rooms. One of the rooms was mainly a bunch of indie games, including some tabletop games and some like the indie companies down here. The other room was set up for like some of the VR and some other games, and it went really well. Man. We had a pretty decent turnout from what we were expecting. A lot of people got to try out our stuff and talk to us, and kind of get a little more feel of what's going on here in South Florida. So the land event went really well.
Nice. So in case people don't know, the GaCuCon was a cruise where they had the meet and greet on Wednesday, and then you went on the cruise, and you went on the cruise. There was other people there. It was like a carnival cruise, but there was a large group of gamers that got together to make a LAN party out of it, and it came out of groups down here, Make Games Miami, Game Trip, and Miami developers. So it's all this Miami-based gaming community coming together, and I really just thought being to a lot of conventions that was a great idea. And with like the different events that you guys are going to have on the cruise, and the fact that you're there with other people who are not part of that LAN party, I was always curious about how would that play, and like talking to some of the people that went there, like Fatality, stuff like that. It was interesting about that idea. What was it like, just going on the boat? Like, were there people like looking like, who are these guys?
It was definitely very interesting. I had never been on a cruise, so it was also my first experience on a cruise. But for the most part, like, we kind of just walked in as normal. And we kind of had little events planned out throughout all the 4 days. And then we also, after the first day of being out, is when we were able to set up our LAN room, and we essentially got the entire room for the rest of the cruise for like 4 days. We were in there like 24 hours a day. We had the entire room. And it was great. I think we probably set up the largest LAN event ever to be set up on a cruise. Nice. So that was really interesting. And we had a lot of wonders from the cruise that weren't part of our event, wondering and kind of ask what's going on. We had a lot of crowds, even from the workers themselves on the cruise ship, going in and be like, oh, look at these guys. Everybody's playing games, and it's really interesting. We got a few people come in and kind of inquire more and stuff. And it was really great. It was actually a really interesting time to be playing on the cruise.
Yeah, overall, like, not being on a cruise before, I know that even that alone can be interesting or shocking depending on how you look at things, because you're there on a boat, but you have all these things, but some people still feel that confined space. Like, how was it overall just being on your first cruise?
It was interesting. I didn't get seasick, which is really great. I know some people did, but it was interesting. There's a lot of food involved that I consumed. So that was pretty great. But the cruise was really fun. I like being out at sea and stuff, and it's kind of calming in a way. We stopped at Key West, and then we stopped at Cozumel in Mexico. So that was really interesting too. And overall, it was a great experience, and I would probably go back again.
Would you say that do you know if there was a bunch of people who that was their first cruise?
I know at least a few of us from our group. It was the first cruise that they go on. Yeah, nice. So that was definitely really cool to do. So yeah.
So what was it like the interaction? Because one of the things at conventions is, what kind of access you get. Sometimes you have the guests that sit at the tables and you can kind of talk to them unless their handlers are pushing you off. And then you have some of the big guests that they get up on stage, talk and not, but you don't really get to really interact with them. One of the cool things talking with Fatality and Greg Street was how they were saying, they like interacting with people and being able to have people come up and talk with them. Did you feel that more closer experience being on a boat where it's not, keep away from the famous people?
Yeah, honestly, since we had such a small group going, this is the first year that this event goes through, and we had a fairly small group. It was actually very personal. There wasn't any of those lines or anything. It was just kind of like you see the guys, you go up to them, you talk to them. For most of the time, like everybody was in that room, like at some point in the day, just kind of playing games. We set up the LAN event, or like the LAN computers. We set up like a VR area where Nero from Destructoid kind of helped us set it up and everything. He was just kind of there chilling and showing us some games. And then also like Fatality and Greg, they came like we had a one day was like a QA session with them three. Kind of taking questions from us, right, from like from our group. So that was like one really nice event where we got everybody together, and then they were just coming in and out. But for the most part, we went in there and it was just like, hey, how are you guys doing? Kind of let's play some games, let's talk a little bit, about anything really. It was a lot more personal than just like the quick meet and greets that you normally get at regular conventions. So I really enjoyed that aspect. It was really great.
Would you say that you people also like did things like going up in the pool or the hot tub, things like that, or was it more like centrally in the room that you guys had set
No,
up?
I think everybody experienced every piece of that cruise. Like everybody went to the hot tubs, went to eat, went to I know they have like casinos on ships, so I know like a few people went to the casinos or like the clubs. Yeah, so it wasn't just the game, except the last couple of days though we were pretty beat up from like Cozumel and everything, so we kind of just stayed in there playing games a lot.
What was the top game?
Funny enough, I think the top game, like the surprise hit of the cruise was Gang Beasts. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a ragdolly fighting game with really wonky physics. But it was hilarious, and we even had a little like prompt 2 tournament for it because it was a surprise hit. But we also played a lot of Quake, a lot of Counter-Strike, a lot of Team Fortress. A lot of people played one of our games, or both our games actually. We showcased the Gaku Brawl game that we made for the convention, and then we also were showcasing Hyperbay, which is a game that we made, a very short game that we made last year. So that was really interesting. And then some people played Flapping Nuts, which is our new artist's game that he's been working on for a few years now. And a lot of Guitar Hero Live, I think is what it's called. And then we also played a lot of stuff like Cards Against Humanity and like a few more tabletop games, and even created like a weird pirate like tabletop RPG that kind of went along, and it got really weird. And that was after like 24 hours of people sitting there and just like going nuts at that point, where it turned into like some crazy demon spawning bar thing. I don't know. It was weird, but it was pretty great. So yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Gang Beasts was definitely a surprise there for us in terms of like a group play. Like everybody kind of huddled around like towards the end to see that. So that was fun.
It's really just cool, for Miami to be able to get the people who here are making games and here who are interested in gaming together. I was really happy to hear that the cruise went well and you had a good turnout and stuff like that. So I guess from now it's just about trying to make it bigger, get more and more people to come now that they see it's something that's viable.
Yeah, I think GaCuCon 2018 is already in the works.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's coming. That's coming up. And I think there's gonna be a small pivot in the people that we're gonna try to reach out to. And I think it's gonna be a more focused on developers. From last time the organizers told me, I'm not 100% though, so you can't take my word for it. And you gotta wait, I guess, for the for the upcoming news about GaCuCon 2018. So that's cool.
So just indie games in itself, anyone's trying to create games, it could be a difficult process. If you have the skill, if you have the time, and you have the money, you can put together a game. but it's different to actually be able to continue with it and try and get your name out there and, you know, keep your company. Can you tell me about what made you want to like just first go into, you know, designing, creating games,
Sure.
and then how'd you get connected? You know, how did Good War Games come together?
All right. Well, there's a cool story. I was studying at FIU. I was doing electrical engineering, and then right after graduation, I didn't want to do engineering, and I've always wanted to work in video games, but I have zero experience. And who was I going to apply to that would take me, you know, knowing nothing or thinking that I knew things, but you know, I didn't. Like in hindsight, I didn't know much um, of what I know now. I think some of the ideas and designs are still solid from what that I thought back then, but just experience teaches you a lot of things, and experience also humbles you a lot and shows you how to look at you know, at things differently. But either way, at the time, I wanted to make games and I wanted to get into the industry, and I called up a couple friends and I kind of pitched them the idea of this crazy game that I had, and they heard me out and they're like, all right, we're in. And then from there they went ahead and they got like a couple more people. And pretty much all the people that they got at that time are still on the team now. Um, and I essentially, like, I sold them the dream, and then we kind of got together and we started chasing that dream together, right? And it's very difficult. At that point, you have to come up with plans of not just making games, but then like how to get out there, you know, how to get known. For us, it's been 3 years since, and we've gone through a lot of ups and downs and a lot of learning. But we also put ourselves in a position here in Miami where a lot of people in the development scene know us in Miami, right? Because we go out to community meetups, we talk to people, we reach out, we let people see what we're working on. Right now, we haven't really made a big game or like a full like on production. We all work full time, and then we make games in our spare time. But we've been getting really really good at making really small things really fast. The game we made for GaCuCon, we made in 10 days.
Nice.
And it's fairly small. It has 2 levels, only have one kind of character, but the overall gameplay, all the systems, all the art, all that came together in a really like fast amount of time. So we're trying to see what we can push ourselves to do for the next project, which we're kind of in the works already. So yeah, it's all about having the idea and like the dream and just kind of really chasing it. So
Yeah, and one of the things that you hear about a lot when I talk to people who are either indie in film, music, or games is that to get that starting group, you know, you want to find people that you can work with, that but people are also committed, because like you said, all you guys have jobs that you're doing as well. So it takes a commitment to come together after work, after family life, whatever, and still put in the time. And then to remember, hey, you know, fame and fortune may never come, but if it comes, it's going to take time. How was that like, just keeping everyone together and not everyone thinking, hey, games, I'm going to be a millionaire in 2 weeks, right? And you're like, no.
yeah, I don't think everybody that came into this is because they wanted to do it, right? Like as like they want to make video games as a career. They want to do something that they want to do, and it's very difficult to stay motivated in that aspect. But as long as you're dedicated and you're honest about it, and you know, when you have like it's developing the group culture, right? When you have like the people that have the same culture as you do, that believe in the same things you do, it becomes a lot easier to stay together. Even through like the harder times, we haven't gotten a cent. We haven't gotten a cent from like our games, right? For instance, like publishing or anything. We haven't really sold anything either. But we've still made quite a few projects together, and even if you don't walk out with Fame and Fortune, you walk out with a lot of experience. And that was the main goal for us: gain the experience that we need to make like really cool things. And that so far has been like our reward. So yeah, you will always gain something out of it, right? Not just the Fame and Fortune, because like you said, Fame and Fortune may never come,
Yeah.
but the experience will come, like regardless, and it will stick with you for whatever you do later.
And overall, like when you're putting something together, like when you're working on something and then you talk about going out and being public, especially here in Miami, you know, one of the great things about Make Games Miami is it's the same thing like Film Miami. They don't want everyone to be like, oh, I have to go to LA. You know, you can stay here, but it's important to reach out to the community. And that's what's great about a Game Trep and the Miami game developers. You have all these meetups. Can you just talk a little bit more about that point you made about being social, being seen, because that's really important.
Right. Yeah, you have to make sure that you are out there promoting yourself not only as like as a person, but like as a group or your product as well. It's extremely important in any circle. Doesn't matter if it's here in Miami or in California or wherever. If you make the greatest game ever or the greatest movie ever and nobody sees it, like what do you have? Right? You could be happy with yourself, but what did you really do? Like it's your opinion, even if it is or not. Like you need other people to see it. You need other people to give you feedback because that's the way you grow, and then that's the way that you get further reach for any um like creative endeavor that you wanna have. So I think it's extremely important here in South Florida. It's very difficult because the community is still small. We've been trying to grow the community for a little bit now, and it's definitely getting bigger, and we're getting a lot more attention from a lot of different places. And it's thanks to people like you that are with Obsolete Gamer or like Gamer Tag Radio or Twin Infinite, and just all these other smaller publications that are always helping us get more reach, right? And that's important. Like media is extremely important, but you won't meet anybody from media, or you won't meet anybody that will get yourself out there if you don't put yourself out there as well. And I think that's one of the most important things, and a lot of people seem to overlook that. And yeah, for here in South Florida, it's extremely difficult. I was considering even writing like a blog about being an indie developer or an indie creative in South Florida, and like what kind of barriers you have to overcome in order to like really make it. So
Yeah,
it's an interesting topic.
Would you say that maybe in South Florida it's more difficult because it's like I spent a little time in LA, and one of the things that I saw being in film is people just going around doing little shoots. So it's like even though you have Hollywood and that's like the big top of the mountain, you can find that community where people are trying. Since a lot of people look at LA for gaming as well, or San Diego, things like that. In Miami, was it harder to get that community running because people are like, gaming in Miami, nah, you gotta go to LA.
Yeah, I think you definitely have a bigger struggle, or we had a bigger struggle in that sense because everybody thinks about LA or Seattle or even Canada or just anywhere not South Florida. South Florida's culture has not been one for developers, or at least game developers in general. I'm sure there's like web developers and stuff like that it's a pretty decent business. But in terms of gaming and just art in general, I think it's a little hard. Art that's not like music. I think the art scene in Miami for music has been pretty good historically. And recently some of the like graphic arts and stuff, like we have the Wynwood area that's always showcasing artists from like all over, and that's also growing, right? But that's been in the past like I want to say like maybe decade, less than a decade, that's been kind of growing. And right now it's when video game development is really starting to pop its head up in South Florida. So it is a struggle. It has been a struggle because at first you think that you're alone. It's like, oh man, we don't have anything down here. It'll just be so much easier to go somewhere else. But so to an extent it is. The talent pool here is not as big or as diverse as other places, but there is a talent pool down here in South Florida. Like there are people making things and doing work on video games and in like even movies or art and stuff. So yeah, I think it's not known, but it's definitely growing here in South Florida.
Now, I was looking at your website, goodwargames.com, and of course, you already talked about Gaku Brawl. What was the first game that you guys put together?
The first game that we put together that we put out in the ether of the interwebs was actually the first iteration for Wasabi Horizon. Before Wasabi Horizon, the reason we came together, we're working on a game called Golden Sea, and it was my original concept, but it was like this insane like open world RPG that everybody starts off with. And even though there's some still cool ideas for the systems and some of the designs we came up with for enemies and stuff, that's still really great and still in our idea bank. But there was no way that with our zero experience in making games that we were ever going to pull that off like the way that we wanted to. So we decided to tackle a smaller project. The first iteration of Wasabi Horizon was a month-long game development competition. I forgot what was the name of the website, but we ended up coming together and building a small game where you have to draw a line through, and like you have to from Wasabi to the gate and draw a line through all the enemies, and then you get a quick time event to slash the enemies. If you don't press the button at the right time, you get killed and you have to start over. And that was our original design, and there are some videos out there somewhere. If you're fortunate enough to find the original art, but that was definitely the first thing that we were put together. After that was done, we decided to kind of maybe pursue the project a little more. And the project itself has gone through like 3 or 4 different iterations and game styles until we decided on the one that we were currently working on now. Before, as recently as like the last couple of weeks, we've decided to pivot away from that particular project at the moment because we feel it requires a lot more time and resources to really make it what we want to make it. So we're trying to find other ways to bring ourselves up before we can get back to that project.
So overall, like when you guys are thinking about, I mean, for this one, you said you had like the concept before based off of something that you were working on. When you think of like your next game or something like that, since you guys are going for something like passion, like sometimes when someone's writing a book or making a movie, they're not going to think to themselves, hey, what movie's hot? Comic movies. Let's make a comic movie. They'll make it because it's just something in their head. Is that what happens when you guys get together? It's just like, hey, I really want to make this game because I like it, not because it's the new flavor of the month or the new flavor of the year.
Yeah, I don't think we've made a game so far based on like, oh, this is what's hot. Every time we've gone to make a game, it's based on, oh, what do we want to play? What do we want to see be made? And how can we go about it? And how can we make it ours? I think one of our strongest points that we've gotten so far has been our art. Everybody always comments on how great the art for all our games look, on how stylized, and we specialize in traditional like 2D art and animations for Unreal Engine, which is another feed entirely, which normally Unreal Engine's not really used too much for 2D. And we're kind of been on the forefront of that movement as well. So yeah, most of the time we just kind of start, shooting ideas like, hey, well, I want to make a game about this. Honestly, we usually have already something that we want to make before we even finish another project. We're already like, oh, this sounds really cool. This idea looks really great. Look at this art, like this drawing for this, or this mechanic sounds really cool. Let's make a game out of it. That's not to say though that you always have to look at like markets and see if your game is even viable, that after you make it, it's going to do well, right? Because to keep a company afloat, you have to sell games. At the end of the day, you have to sell in order to stay afloat. Like I said, we haven't ran into that issue yet because we have made no money. We've been basically doing this for free for a few years now. It's just out of like what we want to do. It's like I said, it's growing our experience, like learning how to do more things and with more quality. So that's why we haven't ran into that particular problem, and we always kind of just do the things that we want to do, and we try to make it ours. We try to really put that touch on it, that every time somebody sees it, it's like, oh man, these guys are the ones that made that, because they're the ones that like do this kind of thing.
So I was looking at your profile on your website, and it says like one of your favorite games in the Final Fantasy series. Is there a specific Final Fantasy that you like more than the others?
Final Fantasy 12.
Oh,
is
really?
my favorite all time.
That's the one on the PS2. That's the first one. They kind of made it sort of like the like the online version.
Yeah, it was at the end of the PS2's life, and it had a open world and like no different battle screens. All the enemies were in the world, right? And like like the little thing that shot into the enemy, like to see like the trace for the enemy that you're going to attack. And yeah, that was the one that looked a little bit like Final Fantasy 11. And it's amazing. It's an amazing game. It pushed the PS2's like graphical limits, and just like the game ran extremely smooth. It was really well optimized. The story was really intense. It was very political, and I like political stories in video games. But that one in particular had so much going for it, and it was so long and so many things to do. I can't wait for the HD remake that's coming out this year. It's gonna be incredible.
And what about Mega Man? Do you have a favorite Mega Man?
Favorite Mega Man? I want to say Mega Man X5.
Oh wow!
Is probably my favorite. Or just the Mega Man X series in general is amazing to me. But I think X5, Mega Man 0 for the Game Boy Advances are also amazing games that really stick out to me.
When in general, came out with 0, that was great. And the new character, I was like, that was sweet.
Yeah, I love it. But Mega Man in general, I think as a series has evolved in so many different forms, and I like most of them. To be honest, even like the Mega Man Battle Network that came out for the Game Boy Advances was a really cool game and a really interesting take on the RPG genre. So yeah, that's definitely my thing.
And what you play in World of Warcraft?
I play Holy Paladin for 10 years now. Is my main character. Still currently playing.
Alliance or
Whenever
Horde?
Horde, all the way, please. Please.
Yeah.
No, Horde all the way.
Hey, you know, I was gonna say, because when you said Alliance, I was like, wait a minute, is he wearing a red symbol shirt? But okay.
Yeah, no, Horde all the way. Horde, I even got Horde all the way.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I love Blizzard. I think they're a wonderful company. I play most of the games on a regular basis, and I have a lot of respect for that company and what they do and the culture that they breed, and just like their designers and stuff. And it's really great. Actually, one of the reasons why I even started this company was to get the experience to apply to Blizzard, see if I can get in. So thanks to Blizzard for putting me on this path of no sleep.
So last question. If, you know, there's people out there who are either in the process of creating a game or thinking about creating a game, and they're thinking to themselves, man, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know what's going to happen. What advice would you give to, you know, like the indie developer programmer that's out there by him or herself? You know, what would be your advice to them?
Honestly, if it's something that they really want to do, then go ahead and do it. And you have to like go in and like both feet in, because it's very difficult to kind of teeter-totter between doing it or not doing it, because it does take a lot of your time and it takes a lot of effort, and you have to learn a lot of things. You have to put your research in, you have to put your community out, you have to wear all the different hats of like a developer. You have to develop, and then you have to like do design work, you know, like theorize, is the game going to be fun? But then you have to put your marketing hat on, you have to get it out there, you know, you have to let people know. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. If people think that, oh, it's easy, we're just gonna make this really quick little game and make all this money, most of the time that doesn't happen. Sometimes games are made and it does happen for them, and that's great. But if you really love the art and you really have the passion to do this, it's not a glamorous road. It takes a lot of work, and you lose a lot of sleep, and you sacrifice a lot of time, especially a lot of personal time. Like, since I do work a full-time job to support myself and stuff, like I sacrifice a lot of personal time with other people or going out or, you know, all that. It's you definitely have to consider what you are willing to give up in order to pursue the dream. But I think it's a very self-fulfilling in the end when you make something and then you give it to somebody so they can play it, and then you see somebody playing something you created on a screen, and it's just like one of the most wonderful feelings, I think.
Well, I really want to thank you for coming on and, you know, sharing information about what happened at GaCuCon and about your company. I hope that people go check out GoodWarGames.com and see what you guys are doing, because, you know, you got to support just like indie music, indie movies, you got to support the indie games too, because so many people talk about, oh man, I wish that there was this game, or I wish games weren't cookie cutter. Well, the indie guys, they're the ones putting those games together that aren't cookie cutter, that are something that you haven't seen before. And I mean, I've played a lot of indie games over the last couple of years and been like, wow, I'm really impressed with what's happened in the community. But thanks again, Pedro, for coming on and talking with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we'll be back soon with another Obsolete Gamer Show. But until then, thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.